Well, this is Dr. Stan back here at Radio Liberty, coming to you from the hills overlooking beautiful and picturesque Monterey Bay and bringing you the news behind the news, the story behind the story. Hoping to convince you that reality is usually scoffed at, that illusion is usually king. But in the battle for survival of Western civilization, it's going to be reality, not illusion or delusion, that'll determine what the future will bring. And I need to remind you the views that are expressed here are not necessarily those of the owners, management, staff, sponsors, or supporters of the station you're listening to. They happen to be my views, and, well, of course, for the next hour, they're going to be the views of Bob Chapman, and we're going to be talking about what's really going on in the economic world today. Of course, gold started at $1,050 this morning. It closed at $1,065, up almost $15 an ounce. Silver was up strong. We're on the verge of something very major going. Of course, the stock market's soaring over 10,000. Everybody's convinced that the good times are coming, except the people who are really analyzing what's going on. And certainly if you read the things that are put out by Bob Chapman and by David Rosenberg, and certainly by Peter Schiff and Gerald Celente, and a few of the people that we really trust, why, they'll tell you that it's all a facade, it's all appearance, it's symbolism over substance, it's rhetoric over reality. But the reality is the unemployment rate is still increasing. Our production, although it's up a little bit, is only because they poured out, countless billions of dollars. But you don't want to hear me talk. Let's go to Bob Chapman. Hi, Bob. How are we doing?
Well, pretty good. The only thing is I'm not talking tonight.
What do you mean you're not talking tonight? You go right ahead.
Okay.
So tell us.
I just caught the tail end of what you were talking about the other, we'll call them commentators. And we're facing some very difficult times, and most people just don't really have any kind of idea what's going to happen. And, they think it's difficult now, but they seem to be generally handling it. But Wave 2 should come in about, I would say about a year. It'll begin right after the election. And that's unless banks start to increase lending, not decrease lending. They've been decreasing lending year to year, about 14% less than they did previously. And if they would loan again, it would pump things up, so to speak. But I don't see that happening. And the reason I don't see it happening is that their balance sheets look like a dog's breakfast, to use an old English term. And evidently dogs' breakfasts don't look so hot. But anyway, I think we're going to get a stimulus package. Congress is kind of feeling their way along right now to get public reaction. They're talking in terms of $200 billion, and I'm talking in terms of $2 trillion. And that's what they would need to make it happen. Are you getting a lot of static?
I'm getting a lot of static. I think probably what we're going to do is just have you call back in.
We had that problem last week.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind calling, I'll disconnect you. Call right back. If not, we'll have you call on line 1.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hold that thought. Well, this is Dr. Stan. Of course, Bob Chapman's talking about the fact there's going to be a massive monetization. It's already going on. In other words, we have to borrow $5 billion a day, at least at the present time, just to pay the interest on the principal on our debt. Certainly, that's actually we're paying for. We have to borrow money just so we can pay our debts, to get right down to it. Some of it's interest, some of it's just we're spending much more than we're taking in. And so how do we do that? Well, we create the money out of nothing. We can't get anybody else increasing. The other countries will not lend us money, so we're simply creating the money. Well, how long can you keep keep on creating money to pay your debts. So you can do it for a while, but then eventually nobody wants your money because you've destroyed its value. And there is no better way to destroy a nation than to debauch the currency. And the people who are doing it know exactly what they're doing. They just don't want the American people to know that the ultimate plan is the destruction of our economy, the impoverishment of our people, and the enslavement of generations yet unborn. Pick up the story there, Bob.
Well, that's certainly so. And what they've done is they have finally opted, and it's for them, the people who control our government and many other governments, it's a natural extension of their move to a world currency and a new world order. And so what they've done is essentially, officially, abandon the dollar. Now, they are trying to keep the plunge from happening in 1 or 2 or 3 days. And every day, with a day in between, on the upside, the dollar's down. Today is a perfect example. It started off about, 4 o'clock this morning, it was up 0.10, which is 10 parts of 1. And it ended the day up on the USDX, which is an index which has 6 major currencies weighted against the U.S. dollar. And it had a high of 124. In the beginning of May, it was 89.5, and it closed today at 75.22, a new recent low. It was down 0.35. The testing place is 71.18, and we're 4 points away. I thought that we would hit that. I predicted that in January. By the end of the month, I may be a little late on it, but I said by the end of October and perhaps the end of the year when I wrote about it. So I'm right on. Over the next year and a half, they will try to hold the dollar up above 55. I think it'll go to 40. When that happens, what will happen is that there will be a meeting like the Smithsonian meetings in the early 70s, the Plaza Accord of 1985 in Paris, and the Louvre Accord of 1987, which was also outside. Actually, that was in Paris. That's on the Rue de Rivoli, incidentally. I spent a lot of time living in Paris. But anyway, that's what's going to happen. And at the same time, I expect there will be a revaluation and devaluation of every currency against one another. And I also suspect that there will be a official devaluation of the U.S. dollar, 3 old ones for 1 new one. And I think the debt between nations will be reduced to 1/3 of what it is presently. In other words, 2/3 will be written off. I also believe that there will be a new international trading unit, and that unit will consist of G20 countries, and I think it will include a 10 to 15% gold component, which means all of these 20 nations will have to come up with 15% or 10% backing of gold on their currencies, and if they don't have it, they're going to have to go out and buy it. And so that is a consideration. In fact, any nation of the 20 that doesn't have the appropriate cover has got to be out there buying now. If they're not, they're dumb as a spade.
Well, Chris,
anyway,
somebody's buying gold, obviously the price is going up. The establishment doesn't want it to go up. And they've done everything they could to keep it down, and they've lied to the American people. But it was up. It was up $15 an ounce today, from where it opened to where it closed, or something in that neighborhood. You know it better than I do. But, I'm amazed how strong it is, how strong silver is. So, obviously, people, not only in the United States, but throughout the world, are beginning to realize that the currencies are failing. The whole economic system of the world is failing. But what this means is the impoverishment of anybody who's invested in dollars. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, absolutely. We've got people who started buying gold and silver coins and shares in June of 2000 when we made our recommendation. Some of them have made millions of dollars already, and we just finished phase one. We've got a long way to go. And I think in this market, the big winners are going to be the shares, because historically they have gone up 5 times more than gold has, and at times they have averaged 40 times more. And so I think the big potential for gains is in the shares.